Yes, I want you. Okay, there we go. Dead nettle. So dead nettle is pretty common out in the East Texas and more northern Texas areas, and it is jumping ahead. A lot of times it is confused with the henbit, which is more common here in the Houston area where I'm located, in the Gulf Coast area. The major difference between henbit and dead nettle is the dead nettle leaves are more heart-shaped, more pointy at the ends, where the henbit is more rounded. The term dead nettle comes from the fact that most people think it's stinging nettle, but it actually does not have any sting. So someone decided it is a nettle that doesn't sting or a dead nettle. Go figure. So the uses of this is kind of interesting. The leaves are an anti-hemorrhagic, which is just a fancy way of saying it stops bleeding. Think of it like yarrow, which I'll talk at some point. It crushed up leaves applied as a poultice will cause the capillaries to constrict and slow down and hopefully stop bleeding. If you consume it, taking it, drinking it, it helps you expel fluids, both as a diuretic, which means it makes you go to the bathroom, makes you go pee, but it also induces sweating. Now, sweating is useful because to sweat, the body has to increase its temperature, which is usually something you want to do when you are sick. Because remember, the purpose of the fever is to raise your temperature above what bacteria can survive in. And so by increasing the fever, you reduce the bacterial population that's causing the problems. So sweat inducer is just another fancy way of saying it. It kind of raises your internal temperature some. It messes with your thermostat. So where do you find this? When do you find this? Where you find it is in open fields and yards and basically areas that are visited a lot by humans, but not completely overrun by humans. So yards that only get mowed a few times during the winter is a good indication. And this is a winter spring plant. So it needs the cold air to really trigger it to start growing. The earliest I've normally seen it is in November, but the way the wintertime plants, it might have shown up as early as October this year. But generally November through February is the time when you're looking for the dead nettle. So, any questions so far?
Thus far, no, but Miss Kathleen Storylow, I'm really sorry if I didn't pronounce that. She's experiencing a streaming issue and she's not seeing images, just getting audio.
Okay. One thing I did do recently to try and improve.
She rebooted. It's fine.
Oh, okay. So my wife is like this technical computer expert type person, and she pointed out in my presentation that most of the pictures are probably too high of resolution, more than the broadcasting software can handle. So I went through and dropped the resolution of all the pictures to be good for on the screen, but not so much that it overwhelms the software. So hopefully the issue of the pictures not showing up has been taken care of. If not, please let me know right away so I can search for another solution. And also let me know if the sound is coming through. I guess last week or 2 weeks ago, the last episode, we had a lot of echo going on. I have a tendency to talk loudly, and where we are now, we get a lot of back and forth echoing. So, we got a question.
Can dead nettle be found in central Texas?
Can dead nettle be found in central Texas? I got a great way of finding out. So let's go over to the Foraging, Texas. And why are you not? Okay, so, okay, whoop, there we go. So one of the things on Foraging, Texas, and I get the little spinny beach ball. Like I said, I am maxing out the computer here. But every one of these plants here on the left-hand side of Foraging, Texas, each comes with a map. Sorry. So, okay, here's what you do. After the show, go to www.foragingtexas.com and click on the dead nettle link. It's in alphabetical order, and it will bring up a map of North America that will tell you what counties the U.S. government thinks it is found in. Remember, these counties are to be mainly used as guidelines. I'm just going to get away from that. Okay, there, we'll just go here. The counties on the map are just guidelines. They're set up by the U.S. government, so take everything with a grain of salt. Generally, if you see it in a county near where you're located, it's very likely that it's also located in your county. It just hasn't been recorded by the government agent. But that's one of the big benefits of the Foraging Texas website is each plant has a map showing not only where is it found or likely found or has been found in Texas, but it also has a second map that shows where it is in North America, from Mexico up through Canada. So if you are not here in Texas, the Foraging Texas website is still useful. Oops, we have another question.
Does dead nettle have purple flowers?
Yes, dead nettle does have purple flowers. Let me see if I can even go back one here. And man, okay. Yeah, you can, oops, I guess it helps if I go to the presentation. Okay, you can kind of see it has these little flowers up in the upper right-hand corner, kind of above my finger is where you're going to see the flowers. They're usually not as numerous as the flowers on the henbit. The flower themselves, this is a mint family plant, so the flowers have that dragon sort of shape that I like doing. If you can see this, it's like 5 petals, 2 on top, 2 on the sides, and a big lip underneath. But that is the traditional mint flower shape, I guess. All right, anything else?
Nope.
All right, so dead nettle, like I said, mainly stops bleeding and helps you expel water through your bladder and through your sweat pores. Kind of handy. Okay. Next, evening primrose. Now, this is a very cool plant. I should say, if you look at Facebook, 75% of my fans are women. And so this one's for you all. The evening primrose, while it has some basic anti-inflammatory uses, especially the seeds, the oils in the seeds have a number of medicinal properties. So being anti-inflammatory, an overall immune system strengthener that allows your immune system, think of it as it's speeding it up or strengthening it so it responds more quickly and with a greater profusion of the white T cells to go in and take care of the infection. It's an antihypertensive, cholesterol reducing, and why don't I have it on here? Okay, strange. I apologize, because probably the biggest issue or the biggest benefit of the evening primrose seeds is to help regulate the female hormonal system, kind of balancing it out. If it's too wonky and you're producing too much of, say, estrogen and progesterone type stuff, or too little, it helps balance it out. It's very useful for the symptoms of PMS to reduce those, the bloating, the irritability, the general things that makes you so uncomfortable. And then also hot flashes. So think of the evening primrose, in particular the seeds, to be a key female hormonal balancer. So there's been a lot of studies done in this, and I don't know if, I'm guessing my wife got in my way. Well, no, just kidding. So yeah, the evening primrose, the main use for those seeds is to just deal with the uncomfortable female hormones getting out of whack that sometimes happen. Thinking about it, I don't know of any plant that helps the male hormonal system when it gets out of whack. Interesting. Any questions? So where you find this is in open fields, especially up in the Texas Hill Country, up around Enchanted Rock and all that area. I've found it a lot. Not so much in the East Texas or Gulf Coast area. It seems to sandier, somewhat alkaline soil of the hill country areas. So that's where you want to look for it. Occasionally I've seen it in wooded areas, but usually it will be in the openings and glades of woods. It seems to prefer the sun. And it starts showing up in the spring, and by spring I mean February, late February, and goes into the summer, into about June. And the seed pods are found in these strange, I don't have a cursor, but if you see to the right of the flower or the left of the flower, there's this weird long tubular thing with 4 prongs at the end. The seeds are located in there. And that's what you want. You take those seeds, you let them dry, you crush them up, you boil them to make a tea, and away you go. Oops. And we are having a lot of technical difficulties. Merriwether's computer just crashed here, so we're trying to bring that back up. So hopefully we'll catch up with the questions here. But while she is doing that and praying, hopefully, because she's the one that, obviously is taking the questions here. So without her, okay, it looks like she's up. So we're going to wait here just a minute.
Just babble about primrose.
Okay, just babble about primrose some more. Primrose, I love the flowers. It's a neat, oops, let me bring the presentation back up here. Let me just bring this up. Why aren't you coming up? Wow. And there's a little spinny beach ball thing. I don't know why the computers are taxed so much, unless it's just the storm going on. There we go. Okay, so the evening primrose, it's a tall, narrow plant, usually close to 3 feet tall, maybe a little bit more. The top will have the 5-petaled primrose flowers. You can see they'll be yellow and they kind of turn a pinkish orange over time, but it really sticks up above a lot of the other field plants, so you can spot it from pretty far away. The flowers seem to be moth-pollinated. I'm not positive, but I see them a lot at night, and being evening primrose, that kind of suggests that it is a nighttime pollinated plant. So if you don't see any flowers, go out with a flashlight after dark and look for them, or early morning. In the morning before, in the dawn part of the day, the flowers are still usually open and easy to spot. But I've seen them open, even in the late morning and early afternoon.
So have to check the questions on
your. Let's see. Okay, I'm looking over here. 31. Wow, 31 in freezing rain in the hill country. So you're not getting the. Okay. Well. Moving on, Fillory. This is another hill country plant. I've never found the Fillory in the Gulf Coast or East Texas. I have seen it in Central Texas, the hill country, and all the way out in the West Texas and the Big Bend area at the Texas-New Mexico border, things like that. There's 2 of them here, and they both have kind of a unique shape. You can see this low-growing, close to the ground, thick cluster of leaves. And one of the key identifying properties is that dash of purple in the veins. And then if you see on the right-hand picture, those long green spikes, that is the seed spike. And we have a question, so hold on here. Is it about primrose?
Yes.
Okay.
Or wait, dead nettle, maybe?
Oh, dead nettle.
Why would you want to slow blood clotting?
Okay, why do you want to slow blood clotting? Not so much slow blood clotting, but stopping bleeding. So if you are wounded and gushing blood, that's where you would use the dead nettle to stop the bleeding from an injury. Anything else? Okay, so back to Fillory. Like I said, this is a common kind of open, where I find it a lot is like growing right up out of dirt roads and dirt parking lots and really abused, disturbed areas. Areas where you don't think a lot of other plants would grow. And I guess maybe because there's such little competition that it grows there. but this is in the geranium family. Sometimes it's called a storkbill because it has these long stork-like seed pods growing off it. Now, medicinally, what do you use it for? Why are you... There we go. Oops. So it's a cool plant. It has lots of properties. The leaves are antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral. So think of the leaves as just an all-around antimicrobial sort of thing. But they found that it works with the interferon induction, so it's antiviral. So it really does work to basically stop viral infections from spreading through your body. As far as things like AIDS and HIV, there's been some early work done on it. I don't know yet how strong it is. Obviously, you don't want to replace, your HIV medicine with fillory for no other reason that getting the proper dosage every day would be kind of tricky because there's no good way of measuring plant to plant how much property it has. But for things like flu and other general, viral infections, it's a good thing to have around. It's also strong in antioxidants. Antioxidants, among other things, help clean out the free radicals in your cells that can damage the DNA, that can lead to cancer. So whenever you see a plant that is a strong antioxidant, you can kind of think in the back of your head, it reduces the chances of certain types of DNA damage that can lead to cancer. I'm not going to say it cures all cancer. What it does is it can reduce the chance of certain cancers appearing, in particular the cancers due to damage done to the DNA by free radicals. Anti-inflammatory, so if you have swellings from sprains or strains, or I'm guessing, I don't know for sure. I haven't found any research done yet, but autoimmune diseases where you have inflamed joints, it may help with that. Again, don't replace your normal, anti-inflammatory medicines if you're taking them for severe issues. But as far as an aspirin replacement, if it's something you would normally use aspirin, go ahead and try the fillory to see if it works. And of course, the analgesiac excuse me, just means pain reliever. So really think of fillory as a combination aspirin and antimicrobial type property, which is, really good when you're sick because that's probably what's going on. It'll help you feel better and help you kill whatever is in your body causing problems. The way to take this is as a tea, so dry the leaves and then crush them up and soak them in hot water, drink the water. I found this in fall through spring. I have not found it in the summer. So it seems to, again, prefer the cooler weather up in the hill country. And like I said, going all the way out into New Mexico. Basically starting in the Llano area and heading west. It probably goes through all of New Mexico too. But that's where you're going to find it.
All right, we got a couple questions.
Questions?
Is all or most of this information in your book?
Okay, no. My book is The Idiot's Guide to Foraging, if you put a link up. And one of the things the publisher requested is that there is no medicinal information of the plants included. They wanted to focus just on the food aspects of the wild plants. They did not want any of the medicinal properties. The two books I recommended, and then if you go to the my Amazon store, under the herbal medicine, there is a number of other books that talk about the different scientifically proven herbal medicinal uses of a lot of the southern plants. I'm slowly working on my own Texas medicinal plant book. I will say that doing the show kind of cuts into the time that I would normally spend. I mentioned at the beginning, getting things ready for the show, not just before the show, but the days leading up to the show, has ended up taking a lot more time than I expected. But someday it will be out there. I'm in the process of adding this information to the www.foragingtexas website. That's one of the things on my to-do list that I'm working on. I may end up paying my daughters to help me with that because there's a lot of medicinal information out there. But for now, it is not in the book. You'll have to go to someone else's.
All right, the second one is fillery or sweet gum stronger, and do they act in the same way, slash, are they interchangeable?
Oh, good question. So sweet gum, I'm assuming you're asking about sweet gum for antiviral properties, anti-medicinal properties. In the case of sweet gum, it is the sap. It's not the balls or anything like that. It is the sap that is really potent. And of the two, the sweet gum sap or the fillery, definitely the sweet gum sap. The sweet gum sap is significantly better at all around keeping you healthy, the antiviral, antimicrobial, anti-cancer sort of things than fillery. Usually where you have fillery, you don't often have sweet gum unless you get some person who planted it. Whereas fillery is what you have, out in the hill country. The sweet gum is more the East Texas, Gulf Coast, Central Plain area of Texas. So if you have the option, go with the sweet gum sap. But if you don't, use what you have by you. So most likely, like I said, if you have fillery, you're not going to have the sweet gum. So now the fillery, it's still powerful. I'd put it in easily the top 5, but the sweet gum sap is much stronger. Someone's texting me. Let me just turn that off here. And it's crashing again.
The chat keeps disconnecting. I'm really sorry.
Okay, yeah, we're having technical difficulties here.
The storm is messing with the
Okay, yeah, yeah, it's bad. Okay, moving on. Goldenrod. Here's another good one. Goldenrod is going to be found not only pretty much all across Texas, but all across North America, from Mexico all the way up into Alaska and Canada. And so medicinal properties, lots of things. The leaves and flowers, one of its key things is it's a vascular strengthener. What this means is tissue that normally is designed to contain a fluid, whether it be blood or lymph or some other fluid, it helps strengthen those tissues and make them less leaky. So think of a great example would be varicose veins. Varicose veins are caused when your capillaries are starting to, something went wrong. Okay. A great example of a vascular strengthener is the effects of goldenrod on varicose veins. So varicose veins are caused when the tissue of the capillaries becomes leaky and blood can start seeping out at greater rates than it's being drawn back in. And so it kind of pools and collects around the blood vessels, causing pain and stains, and generally people don't like it. So the goldenrod helps with that. It will, some will even claim it will prevent varicose veins, or if you are suffering from varicose veins over time, if you take it over time, it will reduce and do away with the varicose veins. Other things where fluid may be leaking out, think of a runny nose. If you have a cold or allergies or something and your nose is running, now true, part of the reason your nose is running is to kind of flush out the bacteria or whatever irritant may be causing the sinus infection. But the goldenrod will help with the runny nose, slow it down, reduce it. Another thing, how do I want to phrase this with my daughter in the room? But goldenrod, think of bedroom possibilities. So, yeah, yeah, enough said about that. So anti-inflammatory, again, it helps with swelling, including even immune disease type things like lupus, shown to help a little bit with that. It's not a cure-all, and again, especially in the case of lupus, your prescribed medications are a better choice, but using the goldenrod with your doctor's approval may offer some relief and help with the swollen joints from lupus. Now, it is a diuretic, so I mean, it's going to cause you to pee a lot. So you're going to have to replace those fluids. I guess the fluids that aren't leaking out other places have to be ejected from the body someplace. Antispasmodic, in particular, in this case, the antispasmodic, from what I've been reading, if you go into it, is mainly think of it as cold cough, anti-cough medicine. So it's not like an anti-epilepsy sort of thing. It's more like if you are having really bad coughing fits, where you're just to the point where your chest is spazzing and you're coughing uncontrollably. It is antibacterial, not antiviral, but it will help fight bacterial infections both internally and externally. Antifungal, especially things like jock itch and athlete's foot. A good wash with the goldenrod tea or tisane will help reduce and eventually get rid of that. If the fungal infection is actually under your nails, like under the toenails, that becomes more difficult because it's hard for the particular compounds. Like if you drink the goldenrod tea, they aren't going to be delivered to the tissue under your toenails as much. They're going to be staying inside the capillaries and so forth. So toenail fungus, maybe if you soaked your feet a long time and basically helped the tisane or the tea, goldenrod tea, get under your toenails, there would be some benefit, but otherwise no. And then finally, the stopping bleeding. So if you're wounded, quick poultice of the goldenrod leaves or flowers applied to the wound will help stop the bleeding. And we have a question.
All right. What plant is high VIC but not a corn or a berry? I'm not quite sure.
So what plant is high vitamin C? Well, wood sorrel is a good source of vitamin C. Stinging nettle, wild violets. Those would be some of the pine needles. Pine needles are an excellent source of vitamin C. If you go to the Foraging Texas website, one of the things you can search for is vitamin C, and it'll bring up the plants that are a good source of vitamin C. There's a little search feature up in the upper left-hand corner. So, anything else?
Do you have an archive of these talks?
Oh, yes. So all these talks are available on the Facebook Live, and I'm in the process of setting up a YouTube channel. I want to go through and tweak them and clean up some of the stuff, but eventually they'll be on YouTube. That's what I was doing over the New Year's Day holiday, actually, was working for you guys. Sorry, my throat's getting a little raw here. Just water, by the way. So yeah, you can find these if you go to the video section of the Foraging Texas Facebook page, but eventually there will be a link on www.foragingtexas.com to go to these videos also. Anything else?
Last one. Could goldenrod assist with a leaky gut?
Leaky gut. Now that, no. I'm going to say usually the issue with the leaky gut is more the muscles that control the sphincters and valves of the gut rather than the tissue itself leaking through the tissue. So in the case of leaky gut, I have not found any research that supports goldenrod working for that. Mainly it's to, like I said, strengthen the vascular tissues, make them less porous so that the fluids stay in there. But in the case of the leaky gut, where it's valves and muscles, not so much work there, or doesn't really work there from what I've found. Oop, one more.
Are the plants that are high in vitamin C as acidic as oranges, for example, pine needles?
No. So here's an interesting thing. The pound for pound, pine needles have as much vitamin C in them as as oranges and limes and citrus fruit. But when you make a tea from it, it does not have that acidic, sour flavor. The gentle pine flavor overrides it. Well, for one thing, an orange weighs a lot more and gives you a lot more vitamin C overall. Your body needs vitamin C every day. It can't store it. It cannot make it. So it needs it every day. But so you don't need a whole lot of it. Like if you look at the vitamin C tablets, they have thousands of times more, or at least hundreds of times more vitamin C than you need. So 2 cups of pine needle tea using approximately, usually I'd say use about a nickel's worth of pine needles. So if you imagine a bunch of pine needles through there, that twice a day will give you the vitamin C you need, and they're not very acidic. Anything
Nothing
else?
else?
Okay. So back to the sorry, presentation. Okay. So the goldenrod. Uh, Side note, I prefer using the leaves from the medicinal properties simply because the flowers are usually the one of the last flowers of the year. So in the late fall is when they show up, and they are the last source of nectar for bees. So generally, I let the goldenrod flowers remain for the bees and harvest the leaves throughout the summer to dry and then use medicinally. If it was an extraordinarily bountiful year of flowers, like this last summer, there seemed to be a lot more goldenrod flowers than normal. Then I started collecting some, but only a small portion of what was there. Leave most of the goldenrod flowers for the bees. You'll get most of the effects from the leaves and just as strong. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Healsall. Now this is a cool plant. Healsall, also known as self-heal. It's one of the few plants mentioned in the Bible. And this is a common weed around Texas. Again, more in the Gulf Coast, the East Texas, and the eastern part of the hill country, but then all the way up through North America, really. But it does like wooded areas, rich black soil, some shade. It is in the mint family, so it has the square stem, the alternating opposite leaves, and the kind of dragon-shaped flowers. So what is it good for? And we are crashing again. Rain, rain, go away, come again some other day. Okay, so the Healsall, mainly it is a wound healer. So it accelerates the speed at which your tissue knits itself back together. Wounds heal. If you are having stubborn wounds that aren't healing, a lot of times a wash or a poultice of the Healsall will help trigger and speed up the healing process. It is antibacterial and antiviral, especially taken internally as a tisane or a tea. Not really antifungal. I was not able to find any research saying it had antifungal properties. But the fact that it has antiviral properties is pretty awesome. And like a number of other mints, it does stop bleeding. If you crush it up and apply it to a wound, it will stop the bleeding. Always good. And then the other properties of the leaf, the crushed up leaf, will help reduce the chance of infection. So it's like a win-win. It stops bleeding and reduces the chance of infection. It is also a bile stimulator. So if you drink tea from this, it will increase the production of bile, which, among other things, triggers hunger. So if someone is sick and just not wanting to eat, a tea made from the Healsall will help basically stimulate the appetite. I found for stimulating the appetite, all I need to be is awake and sometimes asleep. What I'm really looking for is something that kind of suppresses the appetite. I have not found that yet. But the Healsall will increase the bile production, and as with any plant that increases bile production, if you are suffering from some sort of obstructed bile duct, this is not a good thing. So you want to make sure your bile system is flowing properly before taking Healsall internally. Because if you do have an obstructed bile duct, it can cause all sorts of problems because you don't want to be sending fluid down a blocked hose, if you will. So good plant. Think of it as just a general healer, especially for wounds and hard to heal wounds. I'm thinking like bed sores, diabetes, where diabetes slows down the healing. A poultice of the Healsall may help with that.
Okay, I got a
question.
couple questions. Bile stimulator. What if you have no gallbladder?
Okay, I'm assuming if you have no gallbladder, it is not going to increase the bile secretion. That's a good question, though. That seems like a job for Google and WebMD. My first gut instinct is, no pun intended, my first gut instinct is that without a spleen or gallbladder, it's not going to do anything. The question is, how will the body respond if it thinks it's supposed to be making bile and it's not making bile? And that I don't know. I apologize. So I'm going to say, for the sake that there are lawyers in this world and protect myself, if you are missing your spleen or gallbladder, you probably should not take you should not take Heals All internally.
Alright, and is Healsol in the top 5 antivirals?
Yes, Heals All is a very potent antiviral. It's really one of the oldest known medicinal plant. I mean, it's been known as Heals All for millennia, for thousands of years. So it's always had a history of strong healing for illnesses and wounds. So yeah, it's a good plant. And one of the nice things about Heals All is it transplants easily. So if a friend of yours has it on their property, it's very easy to dig up and then plant in your property. And being a mint, it is somewhat, I won't say invasive. It's not as invasive as a lot of other mints, but it does spread fairly easily. If you have enough moisture and enough rich, leafy, mulchy soil, the Heals All will do very well and it will spread in your property. Anything else?
My chat disconnected.
Okay, well, in that case, we will move on. Henbit. So we talked earlier about dead nettle and how it looks like henbit. Same family, the mint family, but the leaves are more rounded and rounded toothy, whereas the dead nettle was more pointy. So the henbit is really cool. From an edible point of view, we talked about it a few weeks ago. It's kind of a bland, sort of flavor. Not really anything to write home about, but medicinally it has some really good properties. So starting with the antioxidant, and like we mentioned earlier, if you're antioxidant, that means you're scavenging free radicals. Free radicals have a tendency to damage DNA, so if you don't damage your DNA, you are less likely to develop certain types of cancer. So that's why you want to take antioxidants. Anti-inflammatory, if you're having a problem with swelling, sprains, strains, just swollen hands, things like that. The henbit will help with that. Help basically get the fluid back out of the swollen areas and back into the body in general. It's antimicrobial. So it's, when I say antimicrobial at this point, really what I mean is antibacterial. So it's not so much shown to be antiviral or antifungal, mainly just bacteria, but pretty much all bacteria, even some of the ones lately that have been showing resistance to more traditional antibiotic type treatments. So something to keep in mind there. Now, one of the cool things, there's been a lot of work done recently on its anti-tumor properties. They found that after surgically removing a tumor, taking henbit, especially in the form of a simple tea, reduces the reappearance of tumors. So that's something good to know. And something went wrong, please check your stream's connection. So anti-tumor, by preventing the reoccurrence of tumors, I'm assuming if it prevents them from coming back, it would also prevent them from appearing in the first place, but there hasn't been as much study on that because that requires a lot more people and a lot longer time. But there has been some really cool studies recently on preventing the return of tumors. Another thing it does is it reduces the blood lipid concentration, and particularly the unhealthy lipids, so the cholesterol type things. Think of it as an anti-cholesterol drug. Now, if you have extremely high cholesterol, obviously it's not going to just wipe it all away magically overnight. Think of it as a supporting property, and that it will, over time, it will help reduce somewhat the cholesterol and other bad lipids in your blood, but it will not completely do away with it. The diet, exercise, all those sort of things will play a huge role in that, but it will help some. So the hope is that they can kind of tweak it some and come up with a much better medicine, synthetically made, based on the structure from the henbit. This is a cool weather plant. It shows up in the late fall. It started showing up in October this year, which was a little freaky. Normally it's a November, December plant. But as we've discussed several times now, that it seems like the winter plants are showing up a lot earlier than normal. Where you find it, yards, fields, sort of areas that humans hang out in. During the summer, maybe mow, but during the winter, let go to seed some. So look for it in fields, yards, right around your neighborhood. There's a good chance that it's around. Any question? Oh, still no question. Let me see. Oh, hey, Davy Jones is here. Hey, Davy Jones. Davy Jones is a syndicated cartoonist. He's in a number of newspapers. He has Charmy's Army, and I'm blessed to know this guy. He's hysterical. Okay, so yeah, I apologize on the question side. Like I said, we seem to be constantly crashing.
Crashed.
Yeah, so we're I guess.
And the chat keeps disconnecting, so I sincerely apologize for that. I hope it's just the storm and that this doesn't occur again, because this is the first time that this has done this since we started. So.
Yeah, so I guess the next few days will be spent rebuilding the computer. Oh well, so be it. Continuing on. Let me see. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, here's a good question. Can you use henbit blended in a smoothie? Yes. Smoothie is an excellent way of taking henbit and dead nettles. They add a little bit of creaminess to the smoothie, not like chickweed, but still they up it. And the fact that they really have a mild, just kind of a green flavor, they don't impart any bitterness or anything you want to hide in your smoothie. Salad, yes, you can use the henbit in salads. That's another good way of doing it. Oh, did I see? I thought I saw someone. Yep, Stephen Craig joined. Stephen Craig is a person that shakes his head a lot because he is the safety officer where I work. Hi, Stephen. All right. Thank you for putting up with me. Okay. Moving on. This is kind of, normally I don't get to see the names and people coming up, but I'm bringing it up on my computer. Here, wait, I have an idea. If you move chairs, well, maybe not. Okay. I guess that didn't work. All right, so back to henbit. Well, okay, we covered henbit. Good stuff, very common. You can dry it, use it later. You can use it fresh in salads or smoothies. You can poultice it. You can soak it in alcohol and make a tincture. Really, really good plant. Okay, 8:50. The evening is going by fast. Horehound. Some of you may remember horehound candy. I find there's some people, well, horehound candy, either you really love it or you absolutely hate it. Horehound has a very distinctive bitter flavor that most people don't really like, but it has some, whoops, what's going on here? It has some really good medicinal properties. So the leaves work as a bitter tonic. Remember, a bitter tonic helps stimulate the bile and stimulates appetite, stimulates hunger. So if someone is sick and not wanting to eat, this is a good thing to help them stimulate their appetite. But like we mentioned earlier, if you have an obstructed bile duct, don't take it. If you are missing your spleen or gallbladder, I would say don't take it. But where horehound really comes into its own is when you are suffering from a bad cold and cough. So its two major properties is one is it is an expectorant, so it helps you cough up the lung cheese that is irritating your throat, getting it out of your bronchial system, which then will reduce irritation. But then it's also an antitussive, which is a fancy way of saying it's a cough suppressant. The coughing is mainly due to expectorant properties of helping you expel the stuff that is irritating your throat. So if your throat isn't as irritated, then it's less likely to cough. It does have some minor pain relief sort of things on the bronchial tubes when you're like sucking on it and swallowing it. So not the bronchial, but like the throat area. So if you have a sore throat or inflamed, tissue from coughing, irritated tissue from coughing, the horehound will help soothe it. Now, you can make a tea from it, you can make a tincture from it, but those are pretty bitter. The traditional way is making a candy out of it, where you basically make a strong horehound tea, boil it down with sugar, throw some cream of tartar in there, and it makes these nice lozenges.
Lozenges.
And the instructions and how-to can be found on the horehound page on www.foragingtexas.com. So the candy is easy to make. I know right now the hill country is just loaded with the horehound. Again, it is a winter spring type plant. Very, very common from basically November, even October, into May if you're lucky, especially in more shaded areas. But it does seem to like both fields and near trees. It can handle the full winter, the harsh Texas winter sun. It's fine with that. But then more in the late spring, you'll find it kind of around on the edges of trees, like some of the oaks and so forth that are out in the hill country, some of the mesquite. I find it more around oak than I do mesquite, so let's focus there. Also, if there is a pond or a stream in the area, it'll probably be around there because it does like some water. It transplants okay. I have not had success here in the Houston area growing it just in the Houston soil, but I know other people have. So I think my soil is a little bit acidic yet for it. It seems to like a slightly more basic alkali sort of soil. But really good plant for any sort of throat, coughing, irritation type stuff. And personally, the candy I think tastes delicious. You can buy the candy in stores, but it's more fun to make it yourself. It's something to do with the kids.
All right, we got a question.
Oh, we got a question.
Is it good for asthma?
Ooh, is it good for asthma? So, not exactly. For asthma, cudweed and mullein are better choices. The horehound, it doesn't help. It doesn't affect the lungs so much to help you get more oxygen into it. It basically helps soothe the irritation. Now, in the case of asthma, I have not seen any research on that. If there was nothing else, like I say, when the zombies come, there's no CVS or Walgreens, and you're having an asthma attack, maybe some horehound tea or a horehound candy will help. But personally, I cannot recommend that as a general asthma treatment. Think of it more for just hacking coughs rather than wheezing, throat constricting sort of things. Anything else? Nope. Crashed again.
I was reading off of your...
Oh, cool. Okay. All right. Oh, I am on camera one. So we are at 8:56. We've gone through a few plants, but at this point the hour is almost up. So a couple of things. I just want to mention again, if you want to help keep Merriwether's World on the air, the best way to do that is keeping Merriwether and I happy. We have the wish list that is over on the Foraging Texas. And apparently we could use a new computer too, but I'm not asking anyone for a new computer. But if someone sent me a new computer, that would be awesome. But I want to finish up with the Merriwether's words of wisdom, because I try and I've been on this planet for a number of years now, and I've picked up some things that paying attention eventually hit me in the side of the head and said, "Hey, I wish I'd known this earlier." So tonight's words of wisdom is this: find something you love, do it a lot, but don't let it become work. Once it becomes work, once you become indebted to it, it stops being something lovable. So keep your work life and the things you love separate. You'll be much happier that way. And once you figure that out, when you have time to do the things you love, do the things you love. Even if it means dragging your family along with you sometimes. I drug the family out on a hike
Dragged.
drug.
Dragged is not a good word you want to use.
Oh,
when
yeah,
speaking
yeah,
about the
okay.
family.
Yeah. Okay, so I dragged my family out on a hike. And of course, the girls had a great time and the wife had a great time. It was just convincing them that, to go out in the drizzly cold weather was not so good. But yeah, hey, oh, there she is. That's one of them. My other one, hey, Mambo Weather, are you around? Can you come here a minute? So normally my younger daughter is
Off balleting.
off at ballet and doesn't get home until after 9. But she complained that she never gets to be part of this show. So let's just, in case you're wondering, this is
Hi, everyone.
my other daughter. And then my wife, of course, is still too camera shy to show up. But from all of us, oh, I don't know. Wait. Whoa. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, introducing, there she was, my wife. She does exist. Wow, this is a day to go down in infamy.
Infamy.
Well, or record books. Normally she leaves the house when the show is on so that she doesn't accidentally show up. Yeah, well, yeah, there's that. Okay, so yeah, this is my family.
Hello.
Hi. So, wow, 8:59. I guess we're ending here.
We're ending.
So, thank you all. We will be back next week where we will continue the medicinal plants. Same plant time, same plant channel, same sort of format. Hopefully, the second computer will be working better so that we can have an easier time answering your questions. Remember, the video will be available on Facebook, and then I'm also setting up a YouTube channel where you can see it there. All right. Good night, everyone. Love you all. Thank you so much for just hanging out with us for this hour. Bye-bye.